you know, the only question that I ask is what do I got to do?
As I said before, I took 6 world champions and 1 Hall of Famer, so I don't think I have to apologize to anyone.
Well, a lot of people using the word injustice. I don't see any big injustice about this. Yeah, he deserves to be there.
Look at the numbers, 24 homers, 73
Well, I understand that, but you know what?
55.
I want to repeat myself one more time. Sparky Anderson cost him the job. Had he left him at catcher, he would have probably made the All-Star team. That's where he belongs. He can't play first, can't play the outfield, and
That's why they created the DH.
Let me tell you something. He's not a DH. You have to play both sides of the ball if you're not going to be the DH, and Mickey does not play both sides of the ball very well unless he's catching.
The DH plays one side of the ball, and that is...
And Paul Molitor is the guy that's probably the best DH in the American League right now, and he's on. And that's not to say Mickey shouldn't be there. He should be there. Well, but you can only take so many people.
There's a lot of inequities, and he mentioned a Hall of Famer. Molitor was of his 7 Blue Jays, over only 2 for any other team, was the guy that he's talking about as being a Hall of Famer. That brings up the Cal Ripken situation. He is a future Hall of Famer. He is the best-known shortstop in all of baseball, and he, too, should not have been selected over Travis Fryman, but... You go throughout America, 50-1, I would say they'd prefer to see Cal Ripken over Travis.
Well, I disagree with you. I think it should be our kid. I think our kid should be starting. He's going to play tonight, probably play more than Cal Ripken. But this kid deserved to play. He's a kid with a real testy attitude. He's got great intensity, for the lack of another term.
Not a great fielder, though.
No, not a great fielder. He belongs at third base. But the bottom line is he's got the stats to be there. Unfortunately, there's no provision or mechanism in place that allows you to remove a guy that was voted
in by the fans. Well, that brings us to Sparky's selection system. The fan system has been argued for a long time. Is it the best way? Should other people be included? In any case, here is Sparky's be-all, end-all, 3-tier system to make it completely fair.
Where do you hear this?
It's the players, let them vote. Let the media vote, and let the fans vote. Now you're going to have an honest thing. If you don't have all 3, you don't make it. So what you do is, if you've got, say, 6 positions that were unanimous, now you go ahead with that. Then the other 13 managers make up the rest of the All-Star team by their votes. Who they vote for, and put like the top 5 in order, and then they'll throw it in the computer, and it'll come right out.
Okay, in other words, if you don't get all 3, then it goes to the committee of managers, and they decide.
Committee of 13, and they'll decide who they are, and the manager that's there has no criticism about anything. He's there to enjoy the day. You turn it over to him the day before and say, here's your squad. Go get them, big boy.
Yeah, big boy. Let me say one thing, Sparks. Sooner or later, we'll need a Senate subcommittee, and Donald Regal and some of these other guys will figure it out. Let me tell you something. Don't take it away from the fans. All they want the fans to do right now is pay, pay, pay. They don't give the fans any consideration. Takes a family of 4 costs $95. Let them have this little thing. It's a little chip. Let them have it. Let them keep it. This is an insignificant event.
Naming the players is supposed to overcome any inequities in the fan voting, and it should. Sparky's system of having the 13 managers, why not? That's okay, rather than have the manager of the game and the AL president do it. That might be one way to tweak it to avoid inequities like Lenny Dykstra and Mickey Tettleton. In any case...
Listen, after he explained what he was trying to explain, you could get 4 years in college before you can understand what the hell he was saying.
I'd like to mention, the other Tiger there we haven't mentioned, Cecil Fielder. I'm a little disappointed. There were some quotes he had this week, and I just am disappointed to hear Cecil whine. He's at the game, and he's complaining about...
You know, I don't understand. This is what he said, and this is about the All-Star game because he didn't start. He said what happens is it kind of turns you against the game. If you go out and do what you should do in the first half, you should be rewarded. Now, wait a second, Cecil. You're getting a lousy $50,000 to be there tonight. Cecil's got this little thing that everybody's against him for some reason.
He admits that Olerud should have been there. That's why I'm disappointed he said that. And the other thing is, you know, if you want to get exposure and you're in Detroit and it's a hard time, I think Cecil ought to go take a shoe contract, do it for free, be on national television, continue to hit homers, then everybody in America, every little kid that buys Nikes and Reeboks will know Cecil Fielder, and he'll get voted in.
Listen, if you're going to be a star, Cecil, you got to expect some of the downside to it. You know, he was whining a little bit with the $1 million mansion. He's whining because he's not getting any respect. Listen, a guy that hits 50 home runs a year gets a lot of respect. He may not realize it, but he gets all the respect in the world from the guys that throw the ball.
Especially on payday. Anyway, Bill Freehan, one of the greatest Tigers all-stars of all time, he's our guest when we come back. Stay with us.
Bobby Thompson had done it, and Yogi read the comics all the while.
God, that was so long ago I can't remember. But no, I snuck in one.
Which one?
85.
Who was the manager?
He had white hair or gray hair. The same guy? Sparky, right? Sparky. Yeah, I think he felt sorry for me, so he said, "Come on, Dan, you know, join me there."
What was your record at the break that year?
0-11, I think.
From Boston to
Eli and Denny's All-Star Special, brought to you by First.
Now, why would you say something Because Al
like
Kaline
that?
appeared in 11 All-Star games.
That's all
You
Kaline
appeared
was
in
in?
far fewer.
And you
than
appeared in
Well, I
11.
thought Al had 13 or 15, something
18.
like that. 18.
Okay. Anyway, Kirby
No, there's a
Puckett
significant
got
difference between 11 and 18.
$100,000 just for being named to the team this year. How much did you make in all your 11 All-Star appearances?
Nothing, because I don't think there was any compensation. They gave you a little ring, that I think a little bauble or something like that, but that was I couldn't tell you any of the things other than just the honor to represent the Tigers and the thrill to be in the same locker room as some of the other guys that were, you know, that are in the Hall of Fame right
But the
now.
original thrill was the first time.
Yes, it was. I played 65 was the first time I played in up in Minneapolis. I got in the ball game, and I mean the first guy I got to catch is Eddie Fisher, and the knuckleball guy, and I begged. Yeah, no, relief pitcher at that time. I think he was pitching. I think he was pitching for California, but I'm not positive at that point in time.
We don't care who he's
but
pitching.
whatever. I mean, you know, you're going in, and now you never caught a knuckleball guy,
right.
and that was a concern of mine. And I just begged the hitters. I think Willie Mays was the first hitter. I said, man, hit the first thing that you see, so I don't have to catch it, because I always figured hitting a knuckleball was easier than catching it. But the first time I started, I think, was the first time that you started a game
You and
in
I in
1966.
St. Louis in '66. That's right. You remember the first hitter?
Willie Mays. I think he struck out 3 guys, if I recall, and
Yeah, but you shocked. I mean, I never threw a 3-2 curveball in my life, and here you're calling for a 3-2 curveball at Willie Mays, one of the greatest players in the game. We struck him out, and he was
I
mad.
mean, you didn't shake me off.
No, I didn't shake you off. I didn't want Mays to get a hit either.
Let me ask you this. About 10 years ago, when I was really first starting to cover these things, I remember reading players quoted, "If I ain't starting, I ain't departing," and things like that. Guys blatantly not wanting to go. Do you think all the exposure, the money, has changed the thrill for these guys, or does it still mean the same thing to players today that it did back when you guys were just thrilled to be a part of the game?
Well, I think there's 2 things. I think the early part of my selections to the All-Star team, you were selected by your peers. And I think that changed about 1970 or 71. I'm not positive of the date. And to be selected by your peers meant a whole lot more to me, because I think, you know, the guys you're playing against knew who the best players were and wanted those guys to represent the leagues, although we were not successful in the years that we played. I was only on 1 American League All-Star team that won. But when the fans got involved, and that's what the game is all about. Sure, everybody would like 3 days off, but to be there, to be part of the hoopla, and to be, you know, one of the top players in your league at your position is always a major thrill.
Yeah, but they have additional reason to go now, and he doesn't think it means a big deal. But if $25,000 and $50,000 or $100,000 didn't mean much to him, they wouldn't even want it in their contract. So an extra $25,000, $50,000 for being in an All-Star game, that's significant reason to be elected and to go.
It is, and but I don't really think it's right, to be honest with you, because fans are selecting, and as you know, media markets and you know, the votes, the number of votes from some of the major media markets always dominate.
So you take exception to Cal Ripken being on the team this year, hitting .229.
Well, there's always going to be inequities like that. I mean, fans are going to take established names because they don't know a Travis Fryman, or they don't know some young guys coming in there. That's always going to happen. It happened in our era. It's going to happen now. Is it inequitable? He's playing at home. Shoot, he's been a great player. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Lolich was saying once, he said he was never going to say, because the old timers always come in the locker room and say the game was better back when we played, and I didn't want to do that someday. He claims that baseball in the 60s, there's only 8 teams in the league, or maybe, you know, maybe 10 in the league, was a better game. The infiltration of big money contracts and things like that hadn't taken place. Was the game better when you played, or is the game better today?
Well, I think it's diluted a little bit more, and it's even diluted more this year. If you just look at what 2 expansion clubs have done to runs scored, ERAs, and things like that. With expansion comes dilution of talent, and you know, obviously, the older we get, the better we were. I think there's some outstanding athletes in any era, but you know, with expansion, there is dilution, and You know, there's arguments to be made on
no
both
one
sides
can
of that
argue with
coin.
the fact that the pitching was a lot better in during the 60s and early 70s. I mean, that goes without saying. If you want to argue about that,
I would agree with that.
you
Although there was a
be
bigger strike zone, you could throw a pitch up here and get a guy out, which was your bread and butter, and now you can't do it.
Where is the pitching going?
I think that maybe the strike zone was more consistent then.
I think so.
Because, you know, umpires, you know, there are more umpires. And, you know, with dilution of, you know, we talked about dilution of players and talent. I mean, umpires and their consistency isn't there. And I always thought the umpires in the National League were better than the American League guys. At one time. Yeah. Because the American League guys used the inflated, you know, chest protector. Now they got rid of that. I thought the American League guys got better.
Besides the dilution, just more players in the major leagues, where is all of the talent? I mean, we're supposed to have better athletes across the board in this country at this point in time. Where are they for baseball?
My personal opinion, and it's just subjective, is that because of the money that exists right now, guys aren't playing the game of baseball for the love of the game. When you and I signed, I had no idea what the minimum salary in the major leagues were. And I see that as a college baseball coach right now, where parents, coaches...
they're all involved.
Well, they're involved because there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, where the love of baseball, as a kid, I hitchhiked down Woodward Avenue and sat in the bleachers and dreamed to play for the Detroit Tigers. And, you know, I was lucky to play 15 years in my hometown. I mean, but, you know, the motivation to do that was not monetary, it wasn't financial. It was just to be able to fulfill a dream.
You remember the minimum salary?
Yeah, it was $6,250 in 1963, my first season.
When I got there, yeah, that's right, it was well, mine was, I got more money than you did then. I got 7,000.
Did he ever give you a ride back from D.C. in '69, or was only Lolich that he left there? How did you get home that year?
He was playing. He didn't have an option. Last question. Forget that. Don't answer that. Don't embarrass me again. Last question. Here it is. You want to manage the Tigers one day?
I don't have any aspirations to do that, Denny.
Do you want to manage them in the future? That's not. I didn't ask you about your aspirations.
He's only thinking about you and them.
Are you going to one day want to manage the Tigers? Illich comes to you and says,
But I
Bill,
thought I just answered that.
No, you said you don't have any aspirations.
I am 51 years old right now.
Yeah.
Do I want to go back out on the road and start to, you know, stay in hotels and all that kind of thing? I don't have any aspirations to do that.
Would you like to?
Would I like to? Not
He
really.
answered the question.
Not really.
Really? You're also a grandfather, aren't you, for the
I
first
just
time?
became a grandfather.
Congratulations.
A couple weeks ago.
Congratulations. Terrific throw.
Bill Freehan was our guest. We'll be back with more of the Eli and Denny All-Star Special. Stay with us.
Well, I was real excited when I got picked because it was back in, I don't know, 1967, like 2 or 3 years prior to that. I had a real good first half of the season, and it was one of those deals that I was a firm believer that I should have made the All-Star team, but they had to fill in the roster, and they picked some guy from Kansas City that was like, you know, 3 wins and 9 losses, but they had to have someone from Kansas City representing the club, and I got bumped off the staff.
Can't remember his name, though.
No, I can't.
That's all you'll hear of...
Let's face it, if you don't stand on the podium at Cooperstown, then you're not considered a full ball player.
When you're growing up, you always say, well, I'm going to be a big league baseball player. But when you think of the Hall of Fame, I mean, that is so far out.
It means the highest honor that can be bestowed upon a baseball player.
Cooperstown is a very special place. It's a beautiful little village, you know.
You're a little kid, you have to be completely in awe of Cooperstown.
I've been a member of the Hall of Fame since 1982. Probably one of the greatest thrills I had in life.
I've been American Express card member since 1986.
Since 1989.
Since 1973.
Since 1988.
I like my harmonica. I never leave home without it.
American Express is welcomed at the Hall of Fame, and anywhere else people go to dream.
These are the Davises, who were building a life together when another life came along. So they needed a bigger car. And then their own home, which needed a few things. And as the family grew, so did their house. Then there's college, which are a few of the reasons why they bank with us. First of America, a bank for life. Get a no closing cost home equity term loan at 7.9% fixed APR.
I love Mickey.
Mickey who?
You know who, the fellow with the celebrated swing.
All right. That wasn't Mickey, that was Al, wasn't it? Anyway, Tigers have been well represented in these 63 All-Star games to this point. We take a look back at the Tigers who have made the most significant contributions. The Tigers' all-time undisputed all-star king is Al Kaline, who went 18 times, played in 16 of those, and hit .324 with 12 runs batted in and just 37 at-bats. In the 71 game here, he singles off the National League's Ferguson Jenkins. Next on the list is Bill Freehan, who went 11 times, including 10 years in a row, from 64 to 73. In 69, he homered off Steve Carlton in the game at RFK Stadium. Freehan played 8 of the 11 times he went. Harvey Keene was picked 8 times, third on the Tiger list, including 7 straight years between 53 and 59. Here he singles off Philly great Robin Roberts. Keene played 7 of the 8 times he went. Fourth place, long and lanky Jim Bunning went to 7 All-Star games. In 1957 started, pitched 3 perfect innings and got the win. Lou Burdett's liner to Mickey Mantle ended his stint that year. Bunning pitched 6 times in All-Star play, gave up only 3 runs in 14 innings. The late Charlie Gehringer played in 6 All-Star games, and they were the first 6 times the game was played. But Gehringer deserves an asterisk. He had at least 5 seasons that were All-Star caliber, but alas, they hadn't invented the game. Other 6-time All-Stars include Tommy Bridges, Hal Newhouser, Lance Parrish, and Alan Trammell. Tigers who went 5 times are 3, Norm Cash, George Kell, and Rudy York. 4-timers include Rocky Colavito, who played in both games in the 61 and 62 seasons, and homered off Turk Farrell at Wrigley with 2 on in the American League's 9-4 win back in 62. Hank Greenberg, Willie Horton, Jack Morris, and Lou Whitaker also played in 4. 3-timers are 6, including number 17, whose slate reads 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, and 1 teammate left at the ballpark. But Mickey Lolich has forgiven him, so we'll just leave it at that.
Everybody else is lesson. Why don't you leave it alone?
I'm leaving it alone.
Let me
Never
say this
mention it
to you.
again.
The first All-Star game I was in was a terrific thrill. I mean, it's the recognition factor, and I'll tell you what's very important. All of a sudden, I'm around the guys that I was watching just a few, because I was only 22, as a teenager in Chicago. Yeah. Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, Bob Gibson, Juan Marichal, they were all in the same clubhouses as I was in that day, the first time in St. Louis. But you know what, this year, there's an awful lot of nervous kids out there tonight, too. We have 22 players tonight are playing in their first All-Star game. I think that's significant because maybe it's turning a little bit and we're going to get more kids to play on a much more often basis from now on.
I hope so, because
it's terrific.
Baseball's lost a lot of great players.
Sure has, and the glamour.
We'll be back with more as we wrap up our All-Star specials. Stay with us.
I was such a slow starter and got buried. I never had the stats at All-Star time, and one year I had a great start in 1967, and I was 3rd in the league in hitting, and I got the mumps from my son, and that was the end of it.
But they sent you all the stuff for making the team, right?
Well, they sent me the bats and stuff. It was almost as if I made it, but they didn't bother sending a plane reservation or even a bus ticket. They just said, stay home.
Baseball is a great game to play. As an old friend of mine say, it's hard, but it's fair. I was not the best player in the game by far, but to be recognized is the biggest honor anybody could possibly have. Just so it's hanging there, they can see Albert William Kaline. That's fine with me. I've been a card member since 1973, and I know that when I hand them American Express, everything's taken care of for you.
American Express is welcomed in Cooperstown, and anywhere else the grass is green and the days are long.
You've heard the warnings. But who's sounding the alert? While you're feeling the heat, your skin is paying the price.
We have a big push to warn people that the sun is not your friend.
Sometimes you can't feel it. The protection you rub on may not rub out the problem.
There's no such thing as a safe tan.
Skin cancer, the hidden dangers. Jerry Hodak issues a red alert. Tonight at 11 on Eyewitness News.
Hi, it's Denise. Are we still on for the 7th? Good. See you then. Bill.
Michigan Bell reminds you that making more calls to say see you at the meeting or thanks a lot build better business relationships. At least that's what you'll hear from those on the way up.
Welcome to the executive floor, Miss Sidlow.
Denise, got your purse.
This is Jim and Bill, who decided to be their own boss, who started small but dreamed big, who want to be able to move their money anytime, and makes sure it's working overtime. And they want theirs to be a company that takes care of its people, which are a few of the reasons why they bank with us. First of America, a bank for life. Smart business loan rates are lower than ever. Call our commercial lenders today.
Eli and Denny's All-Star Special. Brought to you by First of America Bank and by Foot Locker.
There's a bunch of us in it, and it certainly was not a very good road trip, as we all know, but you got to give the other teams some credit. We went into some tough ballparks. They beat us fair and square, but we're half game out at the All-Star break, so that's all that matters as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm not sure how fair and square some of those beatings were, but let me point out some of the numbers. Let me point out some of the numbers, and it's all pitching at this point in time. Defense, too, has got to pick up.
Last in defense.
Pitching, I understand, but listen to
the mental errors, too.
They're first in a number of pitching categories, too.
Yeah.
They're ranked 11th out of the 14 pitching staffs in the American League. They're number 1 in giving up home runs, 107 already this year. They're number 1 in wild pitches, indicating what we already know, the control problems. They're number 1 in giving up hits, and they're number 2 in runs given, and just barely finished second. And boy, I'm going to tell you, Jerry Walker, Mike Ilitch, Mrs. Ilitch, let's try to get her attention. Somebody do something. You got a real shot here. You got a real chance, but somebody's got to step in and get you some kids out of Toledo.
Yeah, we got to hope that Sean Bergman is the next Mickey Lolich or something like that, or Joe Sparma or Earl Wilson or something like that. But anyway, the Blue Jays,
you're cruising.
In order to get 95 wins, which is usually the number you need to win, they're going to have to go 47-27 the last half.
You can't do it with this pitching staff and or this defense. And no more.
Let's bring up what happened today with Donald Fear of the Players Association threatening a strike as of September. The owners reopened the bargaining last December, haven't included him in one session to this point, and the players are saying, hey, let's go. You want to make a good agreement for all of us down the road? Let's get talking right now.
Well, let me tell you something. I think this is hogwash. The players are out of line. I can't believe I'm going to stick up for management. These guys have the best life in America, charter jets, first-class hotels, $70 a day for food,
you guys had
$1 million a year average salary.
Oh,
that's not true. We got $7,500 a year for an average salary. These guys have been spoiled so badly, it's out of hand now. $1 million a year average salary, and they're complaining about working conditions.
They just want them to talk. They just want management to give them a call. Give them a call.
Call your broker if you guys want to talk. I mean, that's who they should be talking to.
Do we have any time left, or can I answer this? We out of time? That's all we got.
I mean, it's selfish.
We'll bring that up over the weekend.
Terrible.
Okay,
it's
no,
just awful.
It isn't quite like that.
Me defending Mike
anyway,
Ilitch? Come on
the All-Star game is next. Enjoy it, the 64th, and we'll see you later.
Have a great evening.
Guests of Eli and Denny receive dinner for 2 at the Eli and Denny Restaurant and Grill at the Sheraton Oaks Hotel in Novi. Eli and Denny, where the food hits the fan. Guests also receive a gift certificate for a directed electronic remote car starter from Auto One in Berkeley, Michigan. A fabulous Jules Jurgensen watch. Jules Jurgensen, creator of fine timepieces since 1740 and winner of 32 international awards. Jules Jurgensen, the ultimate fine watch. And a gift certificate from Sharp's Big and Tall Men's Clothes for the sharper image.
Wow.
Well, Eli and Denny gave you the preview. Now watch as Cecil Fielder and Travis Fryman play ball in the 1993 All-Star Game. Right after the Baseball 93 pregame show with Pat O'Brien. That's next right here on WJBK TV2.
The facts tell the story.
You know, it's really hard to describe Huel Perkins. Even though he's an important part of TV2, he may be new to you. But now you'll see for yourself why his reporting gives us a unique balance.
I don't have to describe Rich Fisher. He's been a part of this community his entire life. Your concerns are his concerns. His stories hit home because this is his home.
Fisher and Perkins, weeknights at 6 and 11, only on Eyewitness News. All over America, they're going to work.